Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster on this beautiful spring day. You saw all the native plants coming in. It is a great day for a plant sale and for the quilters to sell some stuff. A great day to be in church. I want to welcome you to church this morning and let you know that this is exactly where you're supposed to be for the next hour or so. So good job, good decision. Our call to worship this morning are words by my colleague, Marta Valentin. She says, "We pause this morning from the chaos of the world to reclaim the beauty within these walls that carries us through our week. We lift this community onto our shoulders with pride and grace-filled expectations for our children and our children's children." Let us worship together. Our opening song is number 15 in the gray hymnal. You'll find one somewhere near you. Let us stand and sing together The Lone Wild Bird, number 15. Please remain standing for the lighting of our chalice. In Unitarian Universalism, the flaming chalice is our most central symbol. We light it at each of our services. We light it at funerals and at weddings and at child dedications. For us, it is a flame of truth and knowledge. It is a beacon of joy and of hope, of courage and of peace. This morning, we light our chalice with these words by John Gibb Millspaw. "Leave aside the little thoughts that distract you, for this place, like all places, is a holy place, and now, like all times, is a holy time. Join with this community of seekers, and together let us find." Please be seated. I want to welcome everybody to church this morning. It's just so great to be with all of you. Given the state of the world out there, isn't it just amazing to be able to come someplace and to sit with folks who care deeply about you, care about what you think, care about the things you care about, a place to rest for a while, a place to engage one another as religious people do in the thoughts and conversations of our inner lives, our spiritual lives. That's all we're trying to do here. We ain't got any other thing to do in this world but to make a space for folks to feel like they belong and that they're cared about and that their thoughts and their ideas are just as welcome as anybody else's here. So whether you've been coming to this place for decades and raised your children in it or buried your parents in it, and whether you have been coming for one time, 2 times, 5 times, who knows? Each of you is in the right place. You are here because you are like all of the rest of us, just bozos on the bus, just trying to get through, just trying to figure out this life and to bring more grace and peace and justice and love to this world. So, welcome to this place. That's all we're trying to do.
Would you please join me in today's responsive reading, which you'll find in your gray hymnal in the back, number 536. This poem, called Morning Poem, is by Mary Oliver, who justly may be called the poet laureate of Unitarian Universalism. Every morning, the world is created. Under the orange sticks of the sun, the heaped ashes of the night turn into leaves again and fasten themselves to the high branches, and the ponds appear like black cloth on which are painted islands of summer lilies. If it is in your nature to be happy, you will swim away along the soft trails for hours, your imagination alighting everywhere. And if your spirit carries within it the thorn that is heavier than lead, if it's all you can do to keep on trudging, there is still somewhere deep within you a beast shouting that the earth is exactly what it wanted. Each pond with its blazing lilies is a prayer heard and answered lavishly every morning. Whether or not you have ever dared to be happy, whether or not you have ever to pray.
For our second reading this morning, I have brought a poem by Tony Hoagland titled Disappointment. I was feeling pretty religious standing on the bridge in my winter coat, looking down at the gray water, the sharp little waves dusted with snow, fish in their tin armor. That's what I like about disappointment, the way it slows you down when the querulous, incessant chatter of desire goes dead calm, and the minor roadside flowers pronounce their quiet colors, and the red dirt of the hillside glows. She played the fiddle, he played the flute, and the moon came up over the barn. Then he didn't get the job, or her father died before she told him that one most important thing, and everything got still. It was February or October. It was July. I remember it so clear. You don't have to pursue anything ever again. It's over. You're free. You're unemployed. You just have to stand there, looking out on the water in your trench coat of solitude, with your scarf of resignation lifting in the wind. I invite you to settle in for the sermon. It's 8:45 on a Wednesday morning, and the small bank branch near my house has been open for 3/4 of an hour. Only one teller is working, both the drive-through window and the lobby, alternating between the two. When I arrive, the only two people I see are the female teller and an elderly woman making a transaction. The two women talk, but it is clear that they are there for very different reasons. The elderly woman's bank transaction is taking a long, long time. The teller is patiently trying to help her as I stand in line and as a car pulls into the drive-thru. However, more than doing her banking, the elderly woman is hungry for someone to talk to, someone to take even a passing interest in her life. I overhear their conversation plainly. There's talk about her cat, talk about a memorial service she went to for a friend, and excited talk about a granddaughter's upcoming wedding. The motorist in the drive-thru and I look at each other through the plate glass window. Our eyes say, "How long will this take? Isn't there anyone else working here?" Neither of us protests, but we are each slightly annoyed. As the teller tries to break off the woman's story, she is effectively pulled back in with another detail. As my compassion for all four of us grows, I decide that I will be the gracious one and let the motorist go first. We will all be done with this awkward situation soon enough. Once the elderly woman has left, the bank teller will help many more customers during her shift. The motorist and I will go on to whatever it is next that we are doing. But the hunger for conversation and connection will stay with the elderly woman. Suffering openly from loneliness, what does her day hold? And how might her loneliness thwart her at every turn? We have all been lonely at times, and we all know that we don't need to be alone to feel lonely. Loneliness can come upon us even when we are surrounded by people. One of the reasons I avoid shopping malls is that the lonely are on display there, and they make me sad. The lonely sit motionless under artificial trees in the atrium. They listlessly finger the clothing in the bright, cheerful stores. They linger over trays of fast food in the food court. The lonely walk up and down the glittering halls of the mall, looking for a connection that is impossible to make there. And we have all been in their shoes at one time or another. We have all felt so miserably alone at one time or another that we just wanted to scream, "See me, look at me, listen to me." I suspect we could each take a short walk down Chestnut Street here in Lancaster and find loneliness, both in the shops and in the beautiful houses that line our streets. Loneliness is not something that happens to other people. It happens to us. And it happens to us so often that it scares us. It can even happen to us right here at church. Now, there's a fancy Greek word I learned in seminary, parakletos. Variously translated, parakletos means spirit of remembering, or spirit of reminding, or spirit of life, which you will hear me use quite often. Parakletos is the thing that connects you to that which is much greater than yourself. It connects you to the Tao, to the way, to the plan, to the ground of being. The only way we seminarians could remember this funny Greek word was to associate it with parakeet, parakletos, parakeet. And the parakeet reference was also helpful in a way. For when you think of the spirit of life as a parakeet, an annoying but cheerful budgie, it becomes something instantly accessible. The spirit of life is not some grand, unknowable presence. It is not something that doesn't know who you are. The spirit of life becomes the parakeet of your soul. It becomes your own portable connection to all other living things. I sometimes like to imagine that those lonely people at the bank or in the mall have a small parakeet riding on their shoulders, connecting them with one another, connecting them to all of life and to me. It is Parakletos that can lead us back to community time and time again. In an article titled Alone Among Friends, Kat Bankis, who works as a community connector at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Evanston, Illinois, writes, "When I am among people, yet at my absolute loneliest, if I can ward off the instinct to consume an entire platter of appetizers and thereby drown my woes in a self-induced carb quaalude fog, sometimes I can hear a voice that sounds something like mine, but warmer, saying, 'I know you're sad. I know you're scared. There was a before. There will be an after. Stay at the party.'" She continues, "That voice, I've decided, is my experience of the Parakletos. It is probably around all the time, but I am most open to being reminded that I am connected to something bigger when I feel the most alone or the most afraid of remaining alone." The antidote to loneliness, of course, is community. Community is the place where we are seen and heard. It is the place where we don't have to be anyone other than ourselves. It is community that can hold us when we succeed and when we fail. It can hold us when we are our best selves and when we are truly downright wretched. Community can celebrate joys with us and mourn our losses too. In groups large and small, community is what helps humans regulate themselves and each other. One of the main reasons for religious community, for this church, is to assist all of us to live into our best selves. This is the place we get to practice that. It is here to acknowledge our humanness and to link that humanness to something much larger than our own selfish ego. So if the antidote to loneliness is community, why is it so very hard for us to find balance there? Why do we struggle within community? Why do we find ourselves sometimes simply fed up with it? Why can't we stand the other people in communities at times? What is it about community that attracts us and repels us, saves us and drives us away? How must we continually move closer and further from community to stay in right relationship with it? It's not as simple as just showing up and you're in. I like to think of community and religious community in particular as the gravitational core of a living system. Community pulls at us and we need it. It draws us in when we are lonely. It restores us when we are tired. It heals us when we are wounded. Yet the pull of community can be so strong that we run the risk of being sucked into the core itself, losing our own sense of self. We run the risk of identifying too much with the group, of being too enmeshed in it. The most extreme case of this, of course, would be a cult, which has control over its members' minds and bodies. When the gravitational pull of community becomes too much for us, we must resist it by seeking solitude. We must restore ourselves in a way that resembles loneliness, but is qualitatively much different than being lonely. When the pressures of community become too great, we must move away from the core for a time so we can refresh ourselves again. But this, like so many things about being human, does not come naturally to us. In a clever little 100-word piece titled, "I'm Shocked, Shocked," David Malachar reports, Timothy Wilson is a psychologist at the University of Virginia, Charlottesville. He did a study where basically subjects were given the choice between spending some time alone with their thoughts or voluntarily experiencing painful electric shocks. Most folks opted for a jolt of the juice in preference to a quiet ramble through their own heads. He continues, "I can't know what's going on up there in those noggins, but I'm figuring it's probably nothing good," which explains how come there are so many sources selling ideas and opinions that you simply absorb and regurgitate instead of having to come up with your own. Just as it is hard to get out from under loneliness, it is equally hard to take that quiet ramble through our own heads. We live in a world designed to keep us occupied, anxious, and entertained every waking moment. Yet all the world's religions, including Unitarian Universalism, lift up the concept of meditation and prayer and retreat. Religion recognizes we need solitude. Every successful religious leader includes times of solitude in their ministry. Moses, Abraham, and Muhammad all left their followers at times to be alone. The Buddha, Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, each relied on times of solitary meditation to restore their ability to lead. Probably the most famous example of a religious leader intentionally taking himself out of community for a time is Jesus of Nazareth. The gospel attributed to Mark reports, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Not only was solitary prayer a daily spiritual practice for Jesus, he was known for taking 3 and 4 days alone to fast and pray. And of course, there is the famous story of him spending 40 days in the wilderness, a time of deep spiritual retreat in which he had visions. So, what was Jesus doing going off by himself when there was so much work to be done? Surely he would have been much more effective if he had just stuck to his schedule of healing people, right? Did he really deserve to go off wandering by himself? He clearly did not live in the real world. All that solitude would not have happened if he'd had kids to get to soccer practice or ballet rehearsal. He couldn't have been that selfish if he had had work deadlines and quarterly reports and inter-office emails to respond to. What did Jesus know about pressure, I ask you? No long commute to the office, no 36 perfect cupcakes to bake for a second-grade class, no 2-acre lawn to mow. The only way Jesus could get away with all that lollygagging about was because he lived with his mother. She probably did all his laundry and kept the fridge filled, too. Some religious example he was. And yet, we know deep down, his practice is right. Just as humans are not meant to live lives of loneliness, they are not meant to live lives devoid of solitude and reflection. The extremes of too little community and too much community are equally damaging. And this is hard for competent, effective people to remember. We fool ourselves into thinking if we are busy, we must be happy. If we are overscheduled, we must be important. If we are stressed out, we must be productive. This overfunctioning is as soul-numbing as the dreaded loneliness. Unless we seek out solitude, we will never know the rich rewards of a spiritual life. I make it a daily practice to find half an hour to do absolutely nothing. This inactivity is not nearly as fancy or refined as actual meditation, but it is related. It is just a half an hour of stillness in which I neither give in to the urge to be entertained, nor do I banish any of the thoughts that come my way. It can happen at home, in my car, in a parking lot, or at my desk at work. I take, as Dave Malachar calls it, a quiet ramble through my own head. For half an hour, I am simply still, present with my thoughts, but not critical of them. If loneliness creeps in, I acknowledge it. If insecurities pop up, I say, hello. If the urge to get things done yells at me, I just tell it to wait. Solitude amid the busyness of life is just as healthful as a week-long solo retreat. It helps hold me in relationship with others. My time alone helps me build community. Whether we are lonely or harried, community will always be there for us. We harbor one another. May we help one another always remember this. May we always make it so. So be it. Amen.
The imagery of a harbor suggests a place of rest after being tossed around by life. In the song Harbor Me, the lyrics shift from a personal need to a shared responsibility. As much as it expresses a desire to be held and protected, it also invites us to think about how we show up for others. Are we, as individuals, creating a space where people feel safe, heard, and supported? We all need a harbor, and we are all capable of being a harbor for someone else.
Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor me?
Our thanks to the choir for that very challenging set of questions and your performance of it. Reverend Howard has already spoken about the loneliness that affects and afflicts all of us from time to time. We try as best we can to counter, to allay, and to understand the loneliness of others. Community can be both support from others, but can also accentuate our own loneliness. As a word person, I am always interested in the influence of etymology on how particular words coming from different language roots can mean basically the same thing in their origin, but differ markedly in their connotations centuries afterwards. Loneliness has more emotional weight and very likely conveys a sense of sadness, unhappiness to many of us. Is it too fanciful of me to think that the Northern European world of its Anglo-Saxon origin was a more isolated and fearful place, where to be alone, the root of the word loneliness, in the North's less populated expanses exposed one to greater threats of freezing or wolves, or that solitude, coming from the Latin word from alone, solus, conveys a more neutral feeling. It is aloneness without the emotional baggage. And solitude, for me, is usually beneficial. Speculation aside, despite my personal Anglo-Saxon roots, I am definitely the product of and creature of solitude, but not loneliness. My father and mother bought 24 acres with a greenhouse after his post-World War II medical discharge from the Navy. My father was a loving but taciturn man. He died before I was old enough to have an adult conversation about his choosing to settle in the countryside and pursue a solitary career as a flower grower. In retrospect, I imagine that his experiences as a Navy construction battalion member, a CB, his advanced landings of heavy equipment onto South Pacific islands to build airstrips, losing friends to hostile attacks, and suffering from malaria, all may have predisposed him to a quiet life, creating and surrounded by beauty. There were no children nearby as my brother and I grew up there. We had only each other as playmates. Early solitude eased up when an elementary school was built in our township and I rode a school bus for the first time in 4th grade. And for the first time, I had a school friend who lived less than 4 miles away. But the pattern had already been set. I had fictional friends from the books I devoured. Those friends were, for the most part, adventuresome and brave, and I tried to emulate them. Horse books were my early favorites, and I had the very good fortune to have a $100 end-of-season camp horse to care for and love. My parents would probably be charged with child endangerment these days, as I rode from age 8, unaccompanied, alone, for miles and hours through adjacent woods and fields. In my imagination, my horse and I carried out daring deeds and rescues. But that riding strengthened my very real love of nature and developed my sense of direction. There were no maps to follow, just a determination to try another trail to see where it went. That sense of happy solitude has remained with me in the decades since. I suppose I could call it spiritual renewal whenever I have the opportunity to work or recreate in nature, or to find a new road or a route to a destination. It is our practice to pass the plate every Sunday to help support the work of this church, and we have the bonus of contributing from the weekly collection 50% of the offering to give to a worthy local charity or institution. This month's charity or organization is Right Face, and you can read in detail about it in the order of service. The morning plate will now be collected.
Thank you, Alan, for the beautiful music. Always a treat. We come to a thoughtful, prayerful time in our service, a time in which if you have come to this sanctuary with a joy or a sorrow, there's something that you can do with it. If you are filled with some great good news, some anniversary, some birth of a new grandchild, some new relation forming, come forward down the center aisle and press that into a stone or a tile and leave it in the sand in the bowl. Likewise, if this has been a rough week for you, or if you have a particular grief on your heart, some sadness, some sorrow, some loss, you're also invited to come forward and to press that into a stone and to leave it there as well. By doing so, we mingle our joys and our sorrows together in community. Please come forward if you are so moved. I invite you to sit with this gathered congregation for a few moments of silence, and then I'll offer a prayer. Spirit of life, we thank you for this opportunity to sit in a moment of quiet with other humans on this beautiful planet. We thank you for this opportunity to simply feel for a moment what it is like to be accepted into community. Not as someone that we are going to be or someone who we were, but accepted exactly as we are right now. Accepted with whatever joys and sorrows we have, whatever unfinished business we may carry. Accepted here, now, just as we are. As we sit in these comfy chairs, supported in this beautiful room, we can feel the people around us. We may be seated right next to someone and can feel their arm touching our arm. This person might be a partner or a spouse, might be a longtime friend, might be a complete stranger this morning. And some of us have no one on one side or no one on either side, but still we can feel the people down the row, the people in front, the people behind. And we know that at least for a moment, at least here, we belong in this place. Help us carry this feeling out into the world. Help us to find it places other than here. Help us to be brave enough to sit shoulder to shoulder with complete strangers in unknown places. For the peace of this world does not usually happen by decrees from leaders. It usually happens because one person simply cares for another person, simply wants that person to live, and to thrive, and to grow, and to be well. All that is asked of us, to be peacemakers, to be justice makers, to be those who spread love wherever we can, is to sit shoulder to shoulder with other people, to see them, to listen to them, and to be seen and to be heard. Thank you for this moment. May it be the thing that carries us through the week. Amen.
I invite you to join me in saying our affirmation of faith, which you will find just inside the front cover of your gray hymnal, if you are not already familiar with it. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ofrenda. Este es nuestro gran pacto, el convivir unidos en paz, el buscar la verdad en amor, y ayudarnos unos a los otros. I'd like to draw your attention to several announcements about ongoing activities. Today we are rich in activities going on. You undoubtedly noticed that there's a plant sale going on just outside the church. Also, just a further bit down toward the corner, our caring quilters, which include members not of this church, as well as the starting members from this church, have a table and will share information about the caring quilters with you. The Labyrinth, the first Sunday of the month, is open at, I believe it's open already, and it will continue until 1 o'clock. That's downstairs in Founders Hall. And at 11:30, right in the sanctuary, is our open mic session from 11:30 till 1:30, I believe, here or there. However, before that, you may want to join us just downstairs in Emerson Hall, just below the sanctuary, which is accessible by elevator or by stairs, for coffee hour, for coffee and conversation with others whom you may not have seen for a while. So, those are the announcements and the invitation.
Thank you, Kim. We're going to change the energy in this room right now. Let's find a teal hymnal right near you, and we'll stand and sing together number 1021, Lean on Me, a song that all of us can use. Please rise, sing out, enjoy this song, number 1021. Go forth from this place being willing to be leaned on and willing to lean on others. That is community in a nutshell. Go from this place in love and in peace. Amen.